Hey guys, I'm Prodigy from Airsoft Team Kilo23. Today we have some more parts from Airsoft Peak we're going to be installing in my A&K SR25. This is going to be a 3-part series of this parts installation, so don't forget to go and check out the other 2 parts. This is part 1. Today we're going to be installing the air compression system in the gun. That is the cylinder, piston head, and piston. Those are all from military action. So let's get right down to it. Now we have the A&K SR25 gearbox opened up here. I honestly have not done much to it as far as upgrades. Tuning, of course, I've done quite a bit of. I have installed low resistance wiring as well as a Dean's connector, a speed trigger to give it kind of a cool chrome look, and a sorbethane pad on the back of the cylinder head. Now these are the 3 parts we'll be replacing today: the stock brass cylinder, the stock plastic piston head, and the stock piston. Now when installing a new piston head, I highly recommend using a drop of Loctite in the thread so that it doesn't unscrew when you're shooting it. Now I did have to sand down the front of the piston head and the front of the tooth rack here to make sure it was all flush. It wasn't quite flush when it came out of the package, so it wouldn't mesh well with the piston head. I also found the piece right here. This little ring that pushes up just had to be sanded down a little bit. It is a pretty soft material, so it's a very easy thing to do. It actually pushed into the piston hole where the piston head screw goes through just a little too far, so it didn't mesh well, and it just kind of sat there and wobbled around. Now the original piston head on this guy is ported here on the left. It is made of just basic plastic. There are some mold marks on the side, so it's not the greatest piston head in the world. It does actually screw into the piston itself, and the screw goes into the front. Now the screw threading is plastic and can strip out on these piston heads. The new piston head actually screws in from the back, and it screws in through the bearings, which is actually a better system. It screws into the metal threads, which are actually part of the piston head and are much more durable. The pistons themselves both have 20 teeth, which is inherent to the SR25 style gun. At least the A&K and G&P models, because they do use the elongated version 2 gearbox. You can see the stock piston here has 1 metal tooth at the top, while the new military action piston has 3 metal teeth. It's going to be a little bit more durable in the long run. Note that on both pistons I did have to shave down the second and most of the third to last tooth to correct for the angle of engagement. Now to do that you will need a vice grip or a really strong hand and a metal file. It's very simple to shave down plastic. Just hold it in place and be very steady with your metal file. The air seal in the stock piston, piston head, cylinder, and cylinder head really isn't that great. Even if you thrust it pretty good, it doesn't get a great seal at all. The air seal with the new piston and piston head is a little bit better. Ultimately, the point of a new piston and piston head is durability and better air compression. The new piston head is going to get you better air compression, therefore better FPS and more consistent speed. Having new piston will give you durability, so your piston won't strip out. Having bearings on the inside of your piston against your spring can allow your spring to actually twist in there. That way it doesn't get wound up and can fracture at some time. Now let's go ahead and move on to the military action cylinder. Very simple to install. Simply remove your cylinder head. I've already got a sorbethane pad on here that I cut and installed myself. What these basically do is they kill the vibration that is caused when the piston head strikes the cylinder head. This can ultimately save your gearbox shell from fracturing over time. So let's go ahead and set the old cylinder aside. It's made of brass, which is okay. The new military action cylinder, just slide this guy in, and you're good to go. The old cylinder is made of brass. The new cylinder is made of what looks to be a chromium material, possibly steel, and it does have the military action logo. The length on these is virtually the same, so there's not going to be any compatibility issues. Now let's go ahead and see what the air seal is with the new cylinder. It's actually very good. When a pressure is applied to the piston and piston head, it's got a very good air seal in there. It's going to give us a very good FPS when we ultimately put this all back together. Now keep in mind that opening your gun will void any warranty that is currently on it, so do this at your own risk. If you do not have the technical skill or know-how, please don't open up your gun. Take it to someone that knows what they're doing. Now, because the piston head and piston are dynamic parts, which means they are moving during the cycling of the airsoft gun, you will need to lubricate certain parts of them. You will need to lubricate the O-ring. I always use Teflon grease on O-rings. Gardner and Modify make really good Teflon grease. You can pick some of that up on most airsoft websites. You will need to lubricate the rails of the piston. That's also a dynamic part. Some people do lubricate the teeth. I personally don't because they are plastic. That's not a necessary thing. But you can if you want. I still use Teflon grease on just about everything inside of the gearbox. The cylinder itself does not require lubrication. However, you may want to use a layer of Teflon tape between the cylinder and cylinder head around the O-ring to get a better air seal with that cylinder head. Now, of course, there is always more work to be done on an airsoft gun than just putting parts in. It does need to be properly shimmed, tuned, greased, etc. So please, if you don't know what you're doing, have someone else do it. Now to reinstall our cylinder, let's put the nozzle and tappet plate back on here. Roll it in gently. And we will need to install the tappet plate spring. The spring will start in the hook on the tappet plate. Use needle nose pliers to hook it on to the gearbox hook right there. Installation of the piston and piston head is very simple. Slide it in there, make sure it's on the rails, push it in, and that's really about it. Now I have checked the angle of engagement and it looks pretty good. That is the angle at which the first tooth on the sector gear here engages the last tooth on the piston. This way it won't strip out, do excessive damage or anything like that in the long run. As a tech, I can probably say that I would not buy this piston head again. There are others out there that you do not need to modify. However, the piston and cylinder, those are pretty good buys, I think. The piston, as long as you actually correct the angle of engagement, I think will last for quite a while. The cylinder, honestly, it's very hard to go wrong with. So all in all, these are good products, but you might want to look around for a different piston head. Now that's it for this episode, but on the next episode, we're going to go ahead and close the gearbox up after we install an SHS M140 spring, which is very simple. After that, we'll chrono it, and we'll get to the barrel and hop-up at the end of this. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned, and don't miss these next couple episodes. It's going to be a really cool DMR build when we're all finished.